Though you might never think of a sweet-sounding old lady who sang the words bippity-boppity-boo as being the epitome of evil, there's actually a chance that you might be wrong. Cinderella's fairy godmother has always been one of the symbols of good in Disney's never-ending battle of good versus evil. But after learning about the hand she played in creating one of Disney's biggest villains, that might change. It looks like underneath that kind facade there was actually a malicious fairy who was only kind to the people that she liked and was truly evil to anyone else. Disney introduced Fairy Godmother back in 1950 when they released Cinderella, although the way they portrayed her back then might have only been one side of the mystical figure. In fact, according to her appearances through Serena Valentino's Villain series, she was much darker than anyone could have imagined. As of right now, Fairy Godmother has only appeared in 2 out of the 10 installments of the intended 12-book series. Her first appearance in the series came in the 4th book, Mistress of All Evil, A Tale of the Dark Fairy, where the author described her interactions with the villainous Maleficent. And in that book, Cinderella's godmother was shown to be less than kind to anyone who didn't look like her. Fairy Godmother also made an appearance in the 8th installment, Cold Hearted, where her evil side revealed itself even more. So believe it or not, there's a good chance that the Fairy Godmother wasn't as wonderful and kind-hearted as Disney revealed her to be in Cinderella, but instead, she might have been just as evil as some of the villains that fans have grown to despise. Now, a good way to tell how vile a character truly is would be to take a look at how they treat a so-called villain. And honestly, the way Fairy Godmother is said to have treated Lady Tremaine was more than deplorable. Though she was only mentioned in a few brief portions of Serena Valentino's novel Cold Hearted, Fairy Godmother's dark side managed to bleed through the pages a little bit. The 8th installment of Valentino's Disney Villains series is centered around Lady Tremaine and the problems that she struggled with before she became the cold-hearted stepmother. That being said, the book opens in the future when Cinderella was already the queen, and at that time she was trying to reach out to her fairy godmother, but she wasn't answering. And that could have been an indicator of a darker side of the beloved fairy godmother, a side that was less willing to help. In Valentino's novel, she explained that Cinderella reached out to ask for her godmother's help after she heard how Lady Tremaine was treating her own daughters, Drizella and Anastasia. But even though she received a letter from Cinderella, her fairy godmother chose not to intervene. Cinderella explained that she would have done it herself, but because of fairy godmother's enchantment, she was prevented from seeing her stepmother and stepsister, and vice versa. But once again, according to the book, her fairy godmother was reluctant to help, which indicated that she might not have been as good or kind-hearted as Disney led everyone to believe. Eventually, the other fairies persuaded Fairy Godmother to read the book containing Lady Tremaine's history, which proved effective in a way. Tremaine's backstory ended up being what the bulk of Cold Hearted was about, but the book did give viewers a look at Fairy Godmother again toward the end when she decided to help out after gaining a bit of sympathy for the evil stepsisters. Though the same can't be said for how she felt about Lady Tremaine despite her heartbreaking story. Without spoiling the ending of the book, all that can be said was Fairy Godmother's treatment of Lady Tremaine when she went to rescue Drizella and Anastasia from their own mother may have been justified, but not what you would expect from a genuinely good character. And that wasn't the only time that Valentino depicted an evil side to the otherwise beloved Fairy Godmother throughout her villain series. In fact, it was even revealed that Fairy Godmother had a sister who it turns out was the actual good one in the family. The fairy known as Nanny has appeared in a few of Valentino's novels, including Poor Unfortunate Soul, A Tale of the Sea Witch, and Mistress of All Evil, A Tale of the Dark Fairy. And for the most part, she was described as being truly kind, especially to those whom she swore to protect. This included Princess Tulip, who she watched over, and even the evil Maleficent before she became the dark fairy that Disney portrayed her as. And though Fairy Godmother only interacted with her sister Nanny in Mistress of All Evil, in all of their parts together, the two were almost always arguing, with Fairy Godmother typically on the wrong side. Actually, there is a good chance that the evil side of Fairy Godmother is what prevented her from surpassing her sister. You see, in Serena's novel, Nanny was depicted as being not only more powerful than Fairy Godmother, but also higher up the totem pole in terms of her social status. Both sisters worked together at the Fairy Academy, where all of the young fairies learned to master their magical abilities and prepared for the wishing status exam. However, while Fairy Godmother was only a teacher, Nanny was actually the school's head mistress, which made her the boss. And though that's not a direct indication that Fairy Godmother had an evil side to her, when you add in the fact that she was shown in the book to be biased and prefer some of her students over others, you can tell that her heart wasn't entirely kind by any means. But perhaps her darkest and most vile moments came when she interacted with someone that she only saw darkness in based on their outer appearance. Seriously, Fairy Godmother might have been in her most evil mindset whenever she was shown speaking to or about Maleficent, who at that time wasn't a villain by any means. You see, when Fairy Godmother was a teacher at the Academy, she was in charge of Maleficent's class, which also included the 3 fairies from Sleeping Beauty, Fauna, Flora, and Merryweather. And according to Serena Valentino, the Fairy Godmother wasn't too kind to Maleficent while she was those in her class and even sided with the other students when they bullied the young fairy. What made this particularly evil of Fairy Godmother to do, though, was the fact that Maleficent didn't show any signs of being a villain by that point. The only thing that distinguished her from the rest of the students was her outward appearance, mainly the fact that Maleficent had horns on her head. But because the rest of the students were uncomfortable, Fairy Godmother felt the same way. Rather than help the singled-out student feel more comfortable and explain to the others that she wasn't evil, Fairy Godmother had the audacity to ask Maleficent to cover up her horns at the request of Fauna. And it should be noted that in Mistress of All Evil, Fauna and her two fairy friends picked on Maleficent a lot, and Fairy Godmother did nothing to help her out. Instead, she was shown siding with the supposedly good fairies, which even caused a conflict between Fairy Godmother and Nanny, who had been raising Maleficent. That wasn't the only time that Fairy Godmother's evil side came out, though, especially when it came to Maleficent. The next time it happened was actually on the Dark Fairy's 16th birthday, when she took the wishing status exam that was actually being hosted by Cinderella's Fairy Godmother. And in Serena Valentino's book, Maleficent passed the exam with flying colors, but instead of simply accepting the fact that her former student was going to be a good fairy, the Godmother protested. In Mistress of All Evil, Fairy Godmother and Nanny got into an argument about whether or not Maleficent deserved to be granted her wishing status and put in charge of taking care of a human. While Nanny felt that her adoptive daughter earned the right to do so because she passed the test, Fairy Godmother felt differently because Maleficent simply looked evil. And when Nanny won the argument, instead of simply granting the young fairy her wishing status, Fairy Godmother taunted her. She bullied Maleficent on what should have been a joyous occasion. Not only was it her birthday, according to Valentino, but it was also the day that she finally became a real fairy. But Fairy Godmother couldn't take it and told her that she was destined to be evil, when in reality, Cinderella's protector showed her true colors as her evil side caused Maleficent to go on a rampage and begin her villainous journey. And before you go blowing off the idea that Cinderella's Fairy Godmother wasn't evil simply based on the fact that she was a fairy, it should be noted that fairies can totally be evil, even in the Disney universe. This can be easily proven by the fact that characters like Maleficent exist in the first place. She was literally described as a dark fairy, and in Valentino's book, Mistress of All Evil, it was clearly shown how she went from being a good and loving fairy to one of the scariest Disney villains of all time. And the same can be said for Fairy Godmother. She was shown being mean to Maleficent based solely on her looks, and that was while Fairy Godmother was her teacher. On top of that, just because Fairy Godmother was nice and helped out Cinderella doesn't necessarily make her good. All it means is that she had a job, which was to take care of and protect Cinderella, and she did it. That's it. Doing her job didn't really or inherently make her a good person. However, turning down the opportunity to help someone simply because she didn't like them, like Fairy Godmother almost did in Cold Hearted, showed a side of her being a villain, or at least having some sort of dark intentions. And then, when she did decide to help, she certainly wasn't kind about it, despite learning of Lady Tremaine's truly depressing past. What do you think after hearing all of this? Was Cinderella's Fairy Godmother really evil all along and only helped Cinderella because it was her job to do so? Make sure you let us know in the comments below.